Well, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to see both recurring and new faces. Just as Joanne said, my name is Christopher Ellers, and I'm the Special Events Associate here at the Japan Society of Boston. And I am very happy to be running our Between the Lines group, our monthly members only book club focused on medieval Japanese literature surrounding women. Normally, we discuss literature written by women. This time, we're discussing some drama that chiefly concerns women. So it's a little bit of a different topic for our discussion normally, but I think it's a nice topic to be covering. Before we begin, I would like to do a little bit of shameless advertisement for myself. Um, so I am currently finishing up my undergrad at Boston University, where I study Japanese language and literature and also classical voice performance. And I am in my final semester, and so I'm finishing up my thesis work, which is focusing on the relationship between a 20th century opera, specifically an opera from the 1960s called Curlew River, which is an operatic reinterpretation of a Japanese no play called Sumida River. And the result of this project is a hybrid performance of both works that is going to be on December 17th at 6 p.m. in Marsh Chapel at Boston University. Everyone is welcome to come. It's totally free, no tickets required. Doors will open at 5:30. It's scheduled to be no more than an hour and a half. The performance itself will be about an hour and 15 minutes. There'll be a little bit of talking beforehand, but other than that, it shouldn't be too long. So yeah, you are all cordially invited, and I hope to see you there. But moving on, this time we read the wonderful play Lady Aoi by Zeami Motokiyo, the founder of No Theater, as translated by Sir Arthur Waley. Lady Aoi is one of the most famous and the most popular of all the plays in the No Theater repertory, and I think for good reason. Just to jump in, so most of us who are at least recurring members of this group are familiar with the story of the Tale of Genji, and so we'll know that this play, Lady Aoi, takes for its plot one of the chapters, specifically the Aoi no Ue chapter of the Tale of Genji, where Lady Aoi, Genji's first wife, is possessed by the spirit of Princess Rokujo, or Rokujo no Miyasudokoro in Japanese. And so this is a very interesting play in that it takes that story, but has a very different interpretation of it. So I just wanted to go over it again for refreshing our memories. The main character, despite the fact that it's called Lady Aoi, the main character is in fact Lady Rokujo, or rather her spirit. There is also this side character. Whaley calls her the witch. In Japanese, she is the priestess Teruhi, or also known as a young sorceress, Teruhi. We then have the side character who is the Saint of Yokawa, known as Kohijiri in the Japanese. And then there is another side character, a supporting side character, who is just a courtier. And then we have the Ai Kyogen actor, who is the messenger who goes back and forth between the courtier and the Saint of Yokawa. Um, yeah, and so the story, as we know, is that the courtier comes out, explains that Lady Aoi is ill and no one knows why. So they've called on the witch to bring her in and see who or what is possessing Lady Aoi and making her so ill. Teruhi brings out a magic bow, as in an archery bow, and by plucking on the string, brings forth the spirit that is possessing Lady Aoi, which is, of course, Princess Rokujo. Princess Rokujo explains her predicament. She laments. She cannot help but beating Lady Aoi. And then leaves the stage to transform into her enraged form. She reappears after the Saint of Yokawa has been called upon, wearing the Hanya mask, which is a mask specifically dedicated to depicting enraged souls of women who have been wronged by men, usually. And what I think is so interesting, so there are some differences in the story. What I think is so interesting is that though Princess Surokujo is definitely more or less the villain of this tale, there is a lot of emphasis on both saving the soul of Lady Aoi and saving the soul of Princess Surokujo. They are both women of high rank in the Heian court and are thus to be respected. And so it is not just that we want to make sure, or they want to make sure Lady Aoi does not die, but they also want to quell the spirit of Lady Rokujo so that she can once again be capable of attaining Buddhahood. So I think that's a really interesting interpretation of the story because it is so easy to just make her the evil character, but they make sure that they treat her with enough reverence and respect, which I really appreciate, honestly. Um, I also think it's very important to note that there is a different outcome in the play than in the book. For those of you who have not read the book, spoiler, but in fact, Lady Aoi dies because Lady Rokujo's spirit ends up beating her to death. Um, and so the difference between the play and the book can probably be boiled down to just the fact that these plays often served as Buddhist parables. And so the Buddhist elements of the story are really highlighted and heightened in order to have some kind of moral lesson provided, versus the book obviously is filled with Buddhist themes and is very important to discuss these themes, but ultimately it is prose, it is fiction, and there's a lot more involved in it than in the play. So that's just kind of an explanation of why they're different. Um, so this is not the only story from the Tale of Genji that has been turned into a No play. Zeami, the founder of No, loved the Tale of Genji and thought of it as the embodiment of elegance and grace, which is an opinion that was shared by most people in the Muromachi period and in medieval Japan as a whole. Zeami actually focused less on the poetic aspects of the writing and more on the actual plot, which is very unique because the poetry of the original text of the Tale of Genji is so important. And it's also a little unlike him because in his treatises, he often talked about the importance of poetry. So it's interesting that he focused more on the plot. Um, Zeami thought Genji and the other characters were perfect people for portraying main characters in No because these characters had to have some kind of affinity for song and dance, which are the two main founding aspects of No theater. Another appeal of the Genji characters for treatment in No was their association with the Heian court, which embodied the aesthetics, or the aesthetic ideals, I should say, of elegance and grace desired by the audiences that Zeami was playing to. Also, Zeami and all of these people were very much obsessed with the spiritual possessions of characters like Lady Aoi and other characters in the Tale of Genji, like Yugao, for example. Um, Zeami loved using the women of the Tale of Genji as a source of material, and he wrote several plays on the Tale of Genji, and of these plays, about half of them are based on the female characters such as Lady Rokujo, Yugao, and also Ukifune. Um, there are also other plays like Kocho and Asagao, which are based on the Tale of Genji, but do not actually dramatize the literal stories, but rather create new plots that then allude to this tale. For example, in Kocho, a wandering priest meets the personified spirit of a butterfly, who then talks a lot about the Kocho chapter of the Tale of Genji, but does not actually dramatize that chapter. And Asagao is similar, talking about the spirit of a butterfly, or sorry, the spirit of a flower. Um, so before we jump into our discussion, I just wanted to play a little bit of a clip so that you can see what this would be performed as. So this is a recording of a performance done by the Kita School and specifically by the Kita School actor Oshima Teruhisa. and it's on YouTube, so we can send out the link for you guys to watch the whole thing if you have not already found it. Um, I think it's a very good production, and luckily it has some pretty decent subtitles, so you can more or less follow along with the story. So, without further ado, here we go. So that's a little taste of that. I wanted to point out it's very there you saw a very interesting um technique there in the No theater. So often the main character and some kind of supporting side character or the main side character or whatnot will engage in dialogue where the two are actually saying one complete sentence but broken between the two of them. This comes in many different uh ways, shapes, and forms, but in um this example, the spirit of Lady Rokujo is actually speaking through the witch, right? The sorceress, who is calling upon her to try and figure out what's going on. So in this case, it's interesting because you have this layered effect of the two people are saying the same sentence, but also one character is having a lot of power over the other one, um, which I think is just a very interesting physical dramatic manifestation of this aspect of the story, because indeed in the Aoi no Ue chapter you have a young servant, a young priestess, who comes in and who then has Lady Rokujo speak through her. So yeah, but I'd love to open up to discussion. I'd love to hear any questions, or I'd love to hear your thoughts. What'd you think?